Welcome back to a brand new project in the shop, and that is going to be the assembly basically of a new Wraith chassis based rig, something that I don't currently have. Most of my trucks start this way and then evolve into something completely different. But I wanted another Wraith based chassis that I could just take out on the trail and just be that ultimate reliable, do everything style trail rig. So Howard picked me up this chassis, and I'm going to use the parts that I really already have around the shop here, which are some really good parts that are just not being used. So I think this is a great opportunity to use some of those. Really, the major component to this build is the Wraith drivetrain that I've had sitting around here in the shop for quite a while. These are my very original Vanquish Curry axles that I've been running on a number of different trucks over the last couple of years. And right now, this whole drivetrain's just been kind of hanging on the wall without a place. So this is going to find its way into that stock chassis and give me that ultra reliable, completely built up drivetrain to start with. Basically, inside we've got all hardened HD gears, same stock axle shafts in the rear, and I do have axial universals up front. I may change those out to the new HD VVDs from Vanquish since the price has dropped quite a bit on those, and those are a new upgraded design. So nice little step there. For shocks on this thing, I've got a set of Kyosho Red Velvet shocks from supershafty.com. A super smooth shock that I've only ran a few times on this drivetrain, so looking forward to running it again. Up on top of that front axle, I've got a Futaba BLS 157 servo. It's about 520 ounce-inches of torque and super fast. That is a great servo. They don't make that particular servo anymore. Now they have the 172 and the 177, but both are more expensive than this one used to be, with basically the same specs plus an S-Bus style system in them. MIP drive shafts are currently connected on both ends of the axles, and I'll get to the transmission here in a second. The Wraith skid plate is basically one that's been passed around from chassis to chassis, is pretty tore up, but going to stay with it since it's already around the shop and connected to the axles via a set of Vanquish 3/16 titanium links, which is also up front. So basically we've got a completely built up drivetrain sitting here that had just not been used. One thing you can see up here on the front axle that I didn't touch on is a set of RC Bros knuckle weight holders and brass knuckle weights. So something a little extra up there just to keep that front end planted without adding rotational mass. Now here's the transmission that I was talking about. This is actually a hot racing case, not something that I typically use, but inside of there is a set of the supershafty.com 6mm chromoly outputs for a Wraith style transmission case. And since hot racing is really the only one, or one of the only ones with an aluminum style case, that's what I went with at the time just because I was building up a complete bomb-proof transmission. The Robinson Racing 32 pitch spur gear is up there, and I've got a 14 tooth pinion. That's a 56 tooth spur. That slipper is actually for the slash. It uses one of Super Shafty's beefy top shafts to get that all mounted up into an axial transmission. Now, attached to the transmission is a brand new motor. This motor is a new censored 4-pole that I'm testing for Holmes Hobbies. It's a 3200 kV 540 length can. So basically a pretty tight competitor with something like the Pro 4. Now, speaking of electronics, I'm going to go with my go-to Castle Mamba Max Pro ESC. Pretty much what I run in most of my Wraiths. It's not too hard to waterproof if I'm really going to get concerned about that. Probably right out of the box, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But if I do, I've actually got videos already showing you my methods of typical waterproofing. I'll try to remember to put a description for that in the description of this video. Staying with the Castle theme, I'll throw a 10 amp Castle BEC in there to drive that big Futaba servo up front. Now, as I mentioned, I want this to kind of be my go-to rig for big hikes, longer hikes, things like that. So I want it to hold a big battery. Normally I run a 2200 3S pack, but for this rig, I want to run something in that 4,000 to 5,000 milliamp range. So something the size of a normal stick pack is what I'm going to build this truck to fit. Probably going to run a 4,000 to 5,000 Turnigy 3S pack with the higher C ratings to make sure that I can feed that motor properly. Now jumping over to lighting. This truck is going to be bright, like really bright. What I've got here is a Vanquish 5-inch rigid housing, but inside of that housing, I've got the Moore LLC insert in it. Now, this is his V2 insert that I'm testing currently. Even the V1 is what I've ran in the past though, but this one steps it up even further. This one's going to put out about 1,000 lumens, which is an insane number if you're really familiar with what that scale means. But that's what's going to go up on top of this thing, and you will really notice the difference between guys running the standard LED style light and this light when we get out there in a big group. Now, something else from Moore, this is something that I started doing 2 years ago. This is a 1-inch Vanquish rigid housing that I've had Moore make an insert for, but I didn't have him do just a typical bright white insert. This one is actually blue, and just that blue light on this thing is piercing. That 1-inch bar on there is brighter than most 6-inch LED light bars that you see. But since it's that blue, no matter when, you can tell that this truck is what's coming. That blue is something that really sets it apart when you're in a crowd, especially of lit up vehicles. You can usually tell what truck is mine running this thing from a great distance away. So something else that I like to do, and something else that's kind of fun to separate the truck. Now for the rolling stock on this rig. That is something that I'm not completely decided on yet. We'll see how that goes exactly when I need it and I'm ready to go already. I definitely do plan on running a set of these Deuces Wild foams with a set of the '06 Voodoo U4 tires, probably in the silver compound. Maybe the blue, kind of depends on which way I really end up feeling when it's time to get those ordered. But the wheels is where I'm still undecided, and we'll see where that falls exactly. And lastly, for control, I'm going to be running my Futaba 4PX radio in this truck, mainly because it's just something new in the shop that I'd like to get more runtime on. I haven't got a ton of runtime on this thing just because of the weather and the type of running that we've been doing lately. So I do need to get this thing used some more, and this is a good excuse for that. Ton of new features in this radio, and I will try and get some setup videos on this for some of you guys that are using it for some of the crawler-based applications like four-wheel steer or dual ESC mixing specifically. But more on that in other videos down the line. So there's a general outline to this project. Some really nice parts that are going to go in here that I felt really bad not using for the meantime. So great excuse to put together a quick little assembled truck and get me going. As far as some of the other details go, we'll get to that when we get there. I will plan on using the new Wraith Spawn interior in there, and then I'll go ahead and build myself a custom set of panels and probably throw on our stock race style hood and finish it all off with a nice Freaky Skins wrap. So with all that said and done, that's where we're at. Watch for another one on this. It'll probably look like basically an assembled truck, maybe minus those wheels and tires until I decide on those. But other than that, this thing will go pretty quick, and I'll get some videos done just on the little finishing touches here and there as we go. But that's all I got for now, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one.